Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session. My name is Eric Hakela. I'm the Director of Worldwide Database GTM Specialist here at AWS. Today, I'm here to speak with you about accelerating data-led migrations. I'll be joined in the presentation by Vanessa Cordero, who's a Principal Program Manager on our Global Partner Migrations program here at AWS. Today, Vanessa and I have a couple things we want to share with you all. So I'll start by presenting a few of the most common database modernization trends that we're seeing across the market segments. I'll also talk about some common customer migration paths that we're seeing customers take to actually get to AWS databases. And then I'll turn it over to Vanessa, who's going to share with you some of our AWS partner customer success stories. And she'll also share with you some of the AWS programs, funding, and enablement pieces that are available for all of you. So first, as we talk about some of the trends, as we all know, there's been a rapid and massive expansion of data requirements for modern workloads over the past number of years. So this is driven first by the explosion of data. Right there, if you look at some of the industry analyst estimates, there's estimates that data grows 10x every 5 years. Driven by network and connected devices, smart devices, devices of all sorts of shapes and forms that are creating data today. Secondly, what you'll see is that microservices change data and analytics requirements. So microservice architectures actually decrease the need for one-size-fits-all databases and increases the need for real-time monitoring analytics of the explosion of data that's being created today. And then finally, there's an acceleration in the rate of change driven by the ability to rapidly deploy infrastructure with modern DevOps architectures. So essentially, these three forces compound to have an explosion of data, more efficient and better ways to work with the data, and then an ability to build such applications much faster and respond to business needs much quicker. As we are seeing our customers embrace this, there's a massive move of data into the cloud. Just looking at database migrations alone, over 500,000 databases have actually been migrated to AWS using our database migration service. The DMS service makes it seamless to do heterogeneous migrations. Homogeneous migrations into the AWS cloud. And this is just one simple tool that makes migrations easy. So if you think about, the magnitude of total migrations that has happened into AWS, it's even much larger than the 500,000 number that we show here with many of these great customer companies. As you're looking at customers that are making these migrations, there's a couple of desired outcomes that they have. So number one is increased agility. Virtually every customer today has innovation projects that they owe as, potentially as high as the board of directors level. And clearly they would love to be able to move faster, innovate faster, have their teams moving more agile, and getting to outcomes faster to speed up delivery, as well as outcomes of those projects. Another key theme is the ability to improve performance and scalability. As digital transformation continues to happen and more businesses have massive digital properties, more and more customers and companies are needing to think about the ability to have performant and scalable data infrastructure. And then finally, cost reduction is obviously a massive theme, and the ability to not only have the teams moving faster, innovating faster, having better performance and scalability, but doing that at a cost-effective deployment model. IDC has done some analyses of the business value that our customers are deriving from our managed RDS managed database service. A couple of the findings that they found is that, in terms of productivity, they found that customers using RDS were able to actually manage 60% more databases per DBA. In terms of driving agility, what they found is that deploying databases using RDS was 86% faster than when they were self-managing and doing all the infrastructure management on their own. In terms of risk, they found that there was a 97% decline in downtime that was experienced. So, that amount of reduction in downtime can lead to massive outcomes for customers. And then in terms of that, cost reduction, the economic benefit of kind of all of these factors together, they found came out to about 37.4K per year per database. So certainly some very meaningful outcomes there. So now as we talk about the common paths that customers take in terms of migrating databases to AWS, there's really kind of three paths that we kind of see customers take when they have legacy databases running on premise that they need to get to the cloud. So basically there's the lift and shift, the move to managed, and then the break free. So essentially as we start with the most simple, which is lift and shift, This is basically the fastest way to onboard to the cloud. And so this is basically taking that legacy database that you have and lifting and shifting it onto a self-managed environment on, say, Amazon EC2. So for example, you may be taking an Oracle database on premise and then running that Oracle database on EC2. The second pattern is where customers really start to derive the benefits of managed database services on AWS. And this pattern is the move to managed pattern. So this is essentially staying with a homogeneous migration where you're still working with the exact same database engine that you worked with on premise, but you're putting it inside of managed container to gain all of the benefits of agility, increased performance and scalability, cost reduction, et cetera, that we've talked about here with managed database services. And so, again, an example of this might be taking Oracle on-premise and moving it to our RDS for Oracle offering. Or it could be taking SQL Server on-premise and moving it into our RDS for SQL Server offering. So again, the core theme here is same engine to same engine, but you get all of the benefits of a managed service without having to refactor the application in the database. It's a really quick way for customers to start to derive the full value proposition of what the cloud offers through managed database services. And finally is the most groundbreaking way to take advantage of databases in the cloud, which is to basically entirely modernize and actually break free from legacy commercial databases. So what you'll find is that there's many customers out there using legacy databases who have onerous contracts and expensive costs that they're looking to get out of those relationships, vendor relationships, and they're looking to reduce costs. And so they do actually want to totally refactor their database tier of their applications. And so, for example, you would see that many customers are transforming Oracle or SQL Server databases and refactoring those into a collection of open source based relational databases such as Postgres. Sometimes they have massive scale requirements, so they'll include DynamoDB or perhaps even Elasticache Redis as the cache in front of it, right? So they're basically taking that monolithic application that previously sat in one large monolithic Oracle or SQL Server database, and they're refactoring it into a combination of, say, Postgres, DynamoDB, and Elasticache to have a much more modern, streamlined, performant, and cost-reduced architecture for the current architecture patterns. So as we look at a couple of the migration patterns from this. So first we have the migration pattern of replatforming, right? And so what you'll find is that self-managing databases and analytic services as well, things like data warehouses or even Hadoop clusters, it's time consuming, it's complex, and it's very expensive to do these things, right? So your staff, and this is where we really get into the ability to increase agility and increase their ability to actually deliver those innovation projects, because we can basically unload a lot of heavy lifting and really non-value add work that they're having to do. So things like hardware and software installation, configuration and patching, and doing backups. Those are things that a managed service like RDS or DynamoDB can actually do for you. And you save your staff's time doing those non-value add tasks. Performance and high availability issues creep up and have to be accounted for when self-managing. And again, our managed database services take care of availability and performance tuning as well. Capacity planning and then scaling clusters for compute and storage is a very time-consuming task. And again, it's required to keep the lights on when self-managing a database, but it's really not value-add work. And so the managed service can take care of that, and as well as our services bake in security and compliance. So that's another major factor and time-consuming bit that we can offload from your staff using an Amazon managed service. This is actually a really great way to kind of visualize that. So if you look at basically the different tiers, you basically have a self-managed database on premise on the left-hand side here, which is basically showing you all of those non-value add tasks that your staff is having to do, right? So everything from dealing with power and HVAC, in the data center, up to doing racking and stacking, server maintenance, OS installation, OS patches, database software installs and patches, database backups, etc. And then finally, you might get to app optimization at the very top. And then if you kind of look at the middle stack, so this represents basically taking that lift and shift option, which is the quickest way into the cloud, and you essentially run that same database that you ran on premise but self-managed on EC2. Again, still comes with a bunch of things that your staff have to do, right? So getting to EC2 and into the cloud does offload, power, HVAC, racking and stacking, server maintenance, and OS installation. But then from the database layer up, they still have to do things such as patching, software installs, operating system patches as well, database backups, keeping availability up, scaling, etc. And then what you finally have on the far right-hand side is the stack that you're able to offload by using a managed service such as Amazon RDS or Aurora or DynamoDB, where essentially we eliminate all of that operational heavy lifting, basically from app optimization down, right? So again, this really is a great way to visualize the agility and staff productivity that we can really enable by using a managed service, because we take care of all that stuff in Blue and basically enable the customer team to focus on app optimization and actually creating value from their data. So if you look at a few of these patterns, so our move to managed pattern, particularly for relational databases, really focuses on making sure the customer has access to the commercial database or even the open source database that they already use, right? And so this provides the benefit of migrating on-premise or self-managed infrastructure into that same engine, which means that there's no need to re-architect the existing applications. They still get the quick win of reducing that database administration burden, right? You're getting the full benefits of that far right-hand stack that we showed, where all of that stuff in Blue goes away from your staff's time and really increases their productivity. And this really leads to getting better performance, availability, scalability, and security, right? And so again, the patterns that you see here is that Oracle users will move into RDS for Oracle. SQL Server users will move into RDS for SQL Server. Those that are already using open source databases, primarily MySQL and Postgres, can then move into either the RDS or the Aurora flavor of MySQL and Postgres. Target customers, for that typically want to move to managed, so these are going to be customers that are self-managing databases, either on-premise or EC2, right? So many of these customers actually are already in the cloud because they took that easiest, fastest approach to lift and shift onto EC2, yet they're not driving the full value of the cloud for their database workload. So they can still get a very quick win by taking that database engine that they're already running on EC2 and then get it into the managed flavor of that. Again, if it comes from Oracle, SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, Redis, those types of things. And these are going to be customers that want to reduce their database administration burden and reallocate those DBA resources to app-centric work. Again, it's that increasing agility and making the customer staff much more productive by offloading those non-value add administrative tasks. It's also going to be customers that they're not quite ready to entirely re-architect and modernize that application, right? So they don't want to do the total refactorization to move from, say, something like Oracle to a combination of Postgres and Dynamo. That step may come later, but they just want the quick win now to stick with the same engine that they're already using, but inside of the managed service. And generally, it's really just customers that need a simple path to a managed database in the cloud for a really quick database workloads win. The next pattern that you'll see is that full refactorization, right? So as customers really do want to modernize and get with the current patterns and current best offerings and take full advantage of the cloud, they will be refactoring their databases. And as most of us know, there's many challenges that come with legacy commercial databases. So namely, these things were very expensive. They're proprietary, which causes lock-in for the customers. Unfortunately, the vendors have taken on to punitive licensing and even audits of the licensing deals, and the vendor relationships have really soured in this space, unfortunately. And customers are just tired of these things, so they're looking to finally get and not only that, but they're looking for current best-in-class performance and architectures, right? So they want to leave these onerous relationships and get to a much better world. But at the same time, this is a huge opportunity for our partners, because this is not a trivial migration for our customers to make, and so they end up needing lots of help. Everybody has the desire to move away from these things and get to a better place, but the reality is that it takes some work to do that refactor, and that's where we think the partner ecosystem is so important here, is because all of you can help our customers to reach this better future state. And so what the main pattern that you're seeing is customers are taking their commercial databases, so namely Oracle and SQL Server and things like DB2 that have been used over the past 20 years, and get those moved into open source based databases. So namely for us, we have our RDS and Aurora offerings, which are based off of MySQL, Postgres, and we also have MariaDB in RDS as well. And the challenge in the past, has really been that, kind of choosing between commercial databases and open source, you were kind of making a trade-off. So with commercial databases, you got, best-in-class commercial performance and reliability, but you paid the cost of those vendor relationships. And then on the flip side, from the open source ecosystem, you didn't have the vendor relationships and the cost element, but unfortunately, you didn't quite get the top-notch performance and reliability. And so that's the trade-off that customers used to have to make. And we're really excited that, with our Amazon Aurora service, which has been out for a number of years now, we've actually been able to blend the best of both worlds. And so we're now able to actually deliver the performance and availability of commercial grade databases at 1/10 of the cost of those legacy solutions. And again, it's because we're wedded to the MySQL and Postgres ecosystem, but we're then able to streamline the infrastructure for the cloud to take advantage and deliver, a high security environment, performance and scalability, high availability and durability, and then have everything fully managed in the cloud. So this is why Amazon Aurora is such an important product in our portfolio, is that it really is the first time that customers have been able to get the best of both worlds, to get the performance of commercial grade databases at the price of what they would expect from an open source based ecosystem. And then extending this, it's not only about relational databases, right? So the world has changed drastically over the past 30 years, where in prior years we basically had this one very blunt tool, the relational database, that we threw at every single problem that came along because that's the tool that we had. Again, architectures have changed. We've moved to things like microservices based architectures. We have massive scale digital transformation apps that need to be supported. And so the point is that customer requirements have changed, so they actually need a collection of tools and the ability to have the right tool for that job that they need to do. And so to support customers through that, we've extended our portfolio not to be, simply managed relational database services available in RDS and Aurora, but to also have a collection of purpose-built databases. So you have things like Amazon DynamoDB for massive scale, modern applications based off of a key value data model. You have Amazon Document DB, which is compatible with open source Mongo APIs for document store. You have Amazon Elasticache, which is a managed Redis in-memory store. Our Amazon Keyspaces offering, which is a service that's compatible with open source Cassandra APIs. You can extend this in not only from the database portfolio, but also to purpose-built analytics tools. So for example, things like Amazon Redshift for a managed data warehouse, Amazon EMR for managed Hadoop and Spark clusters, Amazon ES, which is a flavor of managed Elasticsearch, and then our Amazon MSK offering, which provides customers with access to a managed Kafka service. And then finally, Amazon SageMaker, which is a managed machine learning environment. So as you're thinking about the customers that are going to be the best targets for break-free opportunities and trying to identify in your customer base where you see an opportunity for these modernization and refactored applications, you're going to find that it's going to be customers that are running applications on commercial databases like Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, that are, again, just sick and tired of the cost and the vendor relationships that have come there, along with the fact that they're probably not the most performant databases any longer. And so they're looking to get to a more modern state for those applications. Some customers that have an open source strategy and they're vocal about their desire to move off of those proprietary technologies, those are obviously a very great target when because many customers you'll find will actually voice these things very openly to you as you're taking a look at kind of their architectures and their database estate. Particularly customers that have upcoming contract expiration, for those legacy databases, they may have a contract that's up for expiration, 9 months out, 12 months out, etc. Those are also very much prime targets. And then finally, customers that are seeking improved agility, flexibility, and significant cost reduction, right? These are the same key value propositions that we've been talking about kind of throughout the presentation here so far. So as you're able to identify those customers that really have that desire to be more agile, be more flexible, move faster, deliver their innovation projects, to their board of directors, and reduce cost along the way, those are going to be the prime targets for you. And then finally, I've already mentioned things like our database migration service, or DMS, and then also we have our AWS schema conversion tool. And the point of calling out these items is that these are actual migration tooling services that we provide to try to help make these migrations as simple and quick as possible for our customers. And so with the Amazon Database Migration Service, or DMS, you're able to greatly accelerate homogeneous migrations, again, where you're going from one engine to the same engine, right? So if you're going from Oracle on-premise and you want to migrate that into RDS for Oracle, the DMS tool will actually do that for the customer, right? And they can follow other patterns such as open source Mongo into DocumentDB, MySQL into Aurora MySQL, etc. And then the AWS Schema Conversion tool can actually help with heterogeneous migrations where we're actually changing database migration, right? So it has a list of source databases that it can then actually convert into a set list of target databases. So for example, it can help to migrate a customer from Oracle into Aurora Postgres, or to help a customer to convert from open source Apache Cassandra into, say, something like Amazon DynamoDB for a key value store. So we're doing as much as we can to automate these migrations and provide the tooling that can help customers to get there faster with less effort and less risk. And with that, I'll actually wrap up for the time here. And I will pass it off to Vanessa, who's going to start with some of our great AWS partner customer success stories. So over to you, Vanessa. And thanks everyone for your time today.
Thank you, Eric, for the earlier session. And then thank you to all of our AWS partners who have joined us today. And thank you for your focus on customer obsession to be able to drive those successful business outcomes with customers. What I want to share with you today is a story with one of our premier consulting partners, ClearScale, about a database migration and modernization project that they worked with. So first, let me talk about the customer. So the customer is Acoustic. They're a marketing technology company that have an array of different services, including campaign management, marketing automation, and mobile marketing capabilities. They have over 3,500 brands that they work with in the Fortune 500 company list. As well, they were named a leader in the Gartner's Marketing Automation Hub in 2021. ClearScale is one of our AWS premier consulting partners. They have over 11 competencies, including the migration competency, as well as the database and analytics competency. On top of that, they have several service delivery designations, including those database service delivery designations. And then a little bit about the challenge related to Acoustic. They have a legacy IT infrastructure. There's over 6,300 applications or 6,300 servers that needed to be migrated. They have their migration and database workloads across different systems, Oracle, IBM, MongoDB, and then 8 full stack applications that should be migrated to AWS. And so as part of the solution, ClearScale leverage our Migration Acceleration Program, also known as MAP, and use that 3-phase journey to be able to support Acoustic as part of their migration and modernization journey to the cloud. In the first phase, which we call our assess phase, ClearScale performed a migration readiness assessment, also known as an MRA, to really identify what were the gaps that Acoustic had, and then also performed a deep discovery of the different technologies and the dependencies between those technologies. In the second phase, what we refer to as our mobilize phase, ClearScale helped to transform the foundational knowledge of Acoustic so that they could operate in the AWS cloud. This included understanding the people, processes, skills, security, operations, and compliance that needed to be done as part of the migration. And then also they helped really create that business case and the confidence for Acoustic to move to AWS. Lastly, in the migrate and modernize phase, ClearScale was able to support Acoustic by taking those large applications and then breaking those into different microservices. Additionally, as part of this project, they created a data lake and leveraged 3 of the Amazon database services: Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon DocumentDB, and then also Amazon Aurora. Because this was such a large migration, it really needed the collaboration across both parties, the customer Acoustic as well as ClearScale. And ClearScale, having that differentiated solution with those service deliveries as well as the competencies, was able to help the customer really transform in 10 months to be able to realize the different benefits on AWS. Just to close out, in terms of the benefits to the customer, so one, they were able to break free from those legacy databases and really avoid those large renewal fees as part of that breaking free. Additionally, Acoustic was able to leverage additional cost savings by really using the modern application infrastructure and more effective infrastructure on AWS. And then lastly, not only did they transform their technology, but then Acoustic also transformed the way they do business by really gaining new business agility. And they're doing this by having a new SaaS or software as a service application where they can leverage new revenue on a pay-as-you-go model. So what this highlights, we've done thousands of migrations to AWS. And across these migrations, you can see that there are different customer business drivers for that migration. But then you can also pull out different migration patterns as well as different leaders to be able to target to really influence and inform them about their migration and modernization project to AWS. Throughout those thousands of migrations to AWS, you could take enterprise companies that could be moving thousands of applications. Even in banking and telecom, we've seen examples where there's 9,000 applications that are moving to AWS. For mid-sized companies, we see about an average of 300 applications moving to AWS. And then for those small businesses, about 20 to 30 applications. The things that we see in common, as an example, for the CIO or the Chief Information Officer, what they want to do is build or rebuild those new modern applications that are going to be running on the AWS cloud. Additionally, they're looking for ways to transform the people and the processes that create agility and staff productivity across their company. And then specific to database migrations, one thing that I want to call out, IDC has done some research and they said that in the next 3 years, the data that we're creating is actually more than all the 30 years, past years combined. And so the VP of Big Data is looking at ways to how to digest all of these different data systems and then be able to use the breadth and depth of AWS database services to make more meaningful and scalable and flexible applications that run on AWS. So I'm going to switch a little to talk about the AWS programs that are here to support you, our AWS partners. The first one that I want to talk about is the Migration Acceleration Program. This is one of the most strategic programs at AWS, and I've helped to lead and transform the Migration Acceleration Program to have a partner component that really aligns with the way that AWS partners do business. So the Migration Acceleration Program is a proven program, and we've taken those best practices across thousands of migrations to AWS and packaged it across these 6 different pillars. So in the first pillar, it's about the migration methodology. As Eric even mentioned, there's different migration patterns. There could be different database migration patterns. And so as AWS partners, you can leverage those patterns and access them in tools such as AWS Prescriptive Guidance. In the second pillar, migration tooling, we have internal services that partners can use, built by our migration services team. Again, Eric had mentioned the database migration service, or DMS. There's over 500,000 customers that are leveraging DMS today. And then there's also a suite of migration and modernization technology partners that can help support you as well as in terms of driving the migration velocity. Third, I just want to pause again and say thank you to our AWS partners. especially those that are aligning with their AWS to really build out their migration and modernization business. I will talk about the AWS investment related to the MAP program a little bit later. We have AWS training, migration training that's for customers, but then we've built and are continuing to build training specifically for AWS partners. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight our AWS professional organization, a professional services organization, can help support you, our AWS partners, even with some of those newer services or more complex migrations. So I mentioned earlier that MAP has taken the best practices and created this proven customer journey. So when we think about the three phases of a large migration or any migration, there's the assess phase, the mobilize phase, and then the migrate and modernize phase. In the assess phase, what we're trying to do is really create a case for change. And so the way that we could do that is we can leverage tools such as Migration Evaluator, really helping to create that business case for the customer to understand what their cost savings could be when they move to AWS. During the mobilize phase, there's 8 different work streams. And this could be modified really based on the needs of the customer. So you may have a small or medium business, and so they're looking to you as an AWS partner to help set up a landing zone using AWS Control Tower. They're looking to you to help build that migration and modernization plan, or you could be helping them really build that confidence, doing pilot migrations or proof of concepts to really build their experience before they execute the migration project. And then lastly, during our migration and modernization phase, this is where the migration plan would be executed. As a partner, if you are part of our solution provider program or distributor program, you're going to be able to help support the customer and their accounts, or you could even be part of our managed service provider program and helping the customer with ongoing operations post the migration. Now, in terms of the investment, we understand that there are costs associated with a migration. These could be the double bubble cost that the customer faces while running their current infrastructure on their legacy systems. This could also be the cost that the customer incurs as part of leveraging your services. But what we want to do is we've built out the Migration Acceleration Program to be able to help offset that cost for the customer and then help them make that decision. So what we've seen across the different migrations that we have is that MAP with the investment will help to drive the deal velocity as well as the win conversion for you. So in the assess phase, we have funding to be able to offset the cost where you would perform a business case to the customer. This could be in the form of an unsolicited proposal where you can really go to the customer proactively and pitch to them a proactive transformation project as part of the move to the AWS cloud. In the mobilize phase, we want the customer to co-invest with AWS so that they really have the skin in the game to be able to move and plan for that migration. And then lastly, within the migrate and modernize phase, we have funding that will be able to help offset the cost of your professional services, or there's AWS promotional credits to help offset that double bubble migration cost for the customer. In terms of partner eligibility, MAP partner funding is available for our migration competency partners or those partners who are supporting a specific specialized workload. Again, database migrations is very specialized, so those partners that have the database and analytics or those database service delivery designations are eligible to leverage the MAP investment to then be able to help offset the cost. And I wanted to really touch upon, again, we want partners that align with AWS and are really differentiating their business. And so what I want to call out is the competency program. It's a way that at AWS, we can validate your technical expertise as well as past performance with proven customer success. And so you'd be able to get a competency across an industry, across a use case, across a workload. And then this is the vehicle that AWS were able to share with customers as well as to the AWS field your differentiated solution and highlight your experience. Another example program that's able to do so is the AWS Service Delivery Program. As you've seen here earlier, there's a breadth and depth of AWS services, including just the database services. And so as a consulting partner, you can help to really show your expertise in helping a customer being able to leverage that service. And the way that you do that is through our service delivery program. And you can see here, as part of the database migrations, you have the skills to be able to help a customer leverage Amazon Aurora, Amazon RDS, Amazon DynamoDB, and Amazon Redshift, just to name a few of the different services that you can achieve a service delivery designation. I also want to highlight one of our programs, which is called the ACE, also known as the APN Customer Engagement Program. So as part of ACE, this is where you're able to use this platform, access through Partner Central. You can share opportunities with AWS, and this is a way that you can really engage our sales team. You can be engaged with an AWS account manager. You can be engaged with our partner success team to really help to align and collaborate on moving forward that deal. Additionally, again, I really want to highlight our competency program as well as service delivery program, because our AWS field will be able to share those opportunities with the partners that have the experience to be able to drive customer success. And then lastly, we may have different marketing programs or marketing campaigns, and those leads from those marketing campaigns can be shared with you through our APN Customer Engagement or ACE program. So next I want to move on to the topic about building your migration and modernization practice with AWS. And first, I really want to highlight what the profile of some of the top companies that we've seen who have built million-dollar businesses, migration and modernization businesses with AWS. So first, drive the executive alignment for migration and modernization as a top business priority. We want to help support you as you transform and as you reinvent your company to better align with AWS. Actually, Andy Jassy, our CEO, had shared earlier, migrations is a top strategic priority. It's next to only the security and operational performance of the platform. We want you to build out a team and the priority across your executives that wake up every day to think about, how do I build a profitable multi-million, billion-dollar business with Amazon? Secondly, we want you to create a strategy for customer success, and either you can acquire or retain those existing customers. But in order to create the customer strategy, you really need to know yourself first. So one, what is your superpower? What is the value proposition that you're bringing to the table? And how do you create solutions around that that then you can take to market for those customers? We want you to create those differentiated solutions across those different customer types that you are targeting to be able to do business with AWS. So first, if you have a large customer install base, think about ways that you can leverage a migration or modernization project to AWS as a way to help them really reinvent and transform their business. Get that alignment with your existing customers to be able to help them use new services. As an example, if you're working with the customer on a database or migration or modernization project, after that project is complete, think about what the next project is that they can leverage that data that's already on AWS to be able to use AWS native services like analytics services like QuickSight, or even our AI or ML services. If you want to acquire new customers, the way to do so is really to be able to highlight those proven customer success stories and leveraging those customer success stories with your value proposition to create go-to-market marketing campaigns. And then being able to have that marketing engine as well as business development resources that can catch those leads, be able to move them forward, or be able to hunt for new customers. So third, in terms of the profile of some of our successful partners, is really using operational excellence to build an AWS flywheel. So what we recommend is creating a migration and modernization center of excellence. But we always use the analogy of a flywheel at Amazon. So with the flywheel, the bigger the flywheel, the more difficult it may be at first to really get it going. But once that flywheel is cranking, it's going to be able to really keep up the momentum and the speed and really the scale of a business that you need to build with AWS, and then be able to continue that momentum. And so some things that I want to highlight related to kind of this operational flywheel that I'm calling is one, again, being able to leverage our APN Customer Engagement Program, or ACE, to be able to share those opportunities and really collaborate with our AWS field, sharing where we are, aligning on a sales strategy, building together an account teaming framework, and then even having those regular cadence reviews where we can discuss different opportunities with customers so that we can help them achieve their business outcome. The other thing that I really want to call out is that drive enablement throughout your organization. There's a number of AWS resources that we have for you, but what we need you to do is really internalize that, align it to your solutions, and then be able to communicate that across your organization. So as an example, I've seen a number of partners that have leveraged the Migration Acceleration Program and then that 3-phase journey that I talked about earlier. They could align their MAP methodology with AWS. They could also use that MAP methodology to be able to benchmark against our common best practices. Or then even they could create they would create a call to action for the customer to be able to leverage that MAP investment to be able to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, as a next step, you can leverage a business case, and then we can help you decide on why it makes sense to move to the AWS cloud. And then lastly, what I'll say is that we want you to develop your delivery capability to accelerate the business outcome of the customer. So you've won the deal, and then now you're delivering, and you're really helping to create that vision that you painted for the customer and execute that as part of your migration and modernization project. So the first one I would recommend is making sure that your project teams as well as your technical teams have those certifications, those professional certifications, those specialty certifications, to really be able to prove at an individual level that they're able to execute the projects with AWS. Additionally, I've seen a number of partners that have created their own tools, or they leverage our tools. Again, in the database example, leveraging the DMS to be able to help increase that migration velocity. And then really want to highlight as well, we have migration and modernization technology partners that you can also partner with to be able to help transform the customer's business. And then lastly, what I wanted to highlight, again, with our leadership principle of customer obsession, having that maniacal focus on making sure that we're meeting the customer and what they wanted to achieve as part of their business outcomes. we have a concept that it's still day one. And so Gartner had shared that the biggest inhibitor to cloud adoption is the lack of skills, and that enterprises and our customers cannot hire fast enough. And this is really where they need to be able to leverage our AWS partners to really help move forward those migration and modernization projects, to be able to staff up the teams that can't do it themselves. And so we're building different content with our training and certification team to continue to support you to be able to enable your teams on the migration and modernization best practices. The one thing that I want to highlight, early this past October, we were able to launch the AWS partner training for an AWS migration business case. And so you can see here, this is available on AWS Skill Builder, and it's leveraging our cloud value framework. So one thing that we hear the most from customers is that cost may be the first conversation starter with the customer. But when we talk about really building a business case with a customer, we need to think about how do we add value across the spectrum of these 4 different pillars. And so while you may be able to help the customer with a TCO or total cost of ownership analysis, we also want to take into account staff productivity, operational readiness, as well as business agility. In that example that I shared earlier with Acoustic and ClearScale, Acoustic was really able to achieve that business agility result, thinking about new and creative ways to re-architect their application so that they could have a new revenue stream for their own company. One thing that's going to be launching in mid-December that I really want to highlight is the Advanced Migration and Modernization Sales Training. So this is something that myself and our team of experts are working on. It is the first ever Level 300 business and sales course built for our AWS partners. In this course, you're going to be able to hear from our AWS migration experts on what are the characteristics of an advanced seller. You can also leverage and learn about the best practices for how to engage with the AWS field. And then lastly, for the most strategic workloads that are moving on to AWS, you'll be able to hear how to be able to position and most effectively drive that sales cycle and engage with AWS and the customer to win the deal. One other thing that I want to highlight is our 2021 Migration Ambassador Foundations designation. So again, in partnership with our training and certification team, we want to recognize individuals at partners who have been enabled on the foundational knowledge of migrations or modernization to AWS. And so we have what I mentioned earlier, our AWS migration competency, and this is a partner-wide competency. But this specific designation for a migration ambassador is a way that you as an individual can highlight and demonstrate in a public domain your foundational knowledge of migration to AWS, as well as the knowledge of our core programs or strategic programs, such as the Migration Acceleration Program. And so what I'm really hoping is that after this session, I'm going to be able to see more migration ambassadors and those badges that are going to be on LinkedIn or their emails after reInvent. So let me just close with next steps. So the first, there are resources available to support you. So you can learn more about our different database services on AWS. You can also go into Partner Central and learn more about our AWS Migration Acceleration Program. Second, it's really important that partners build practices that align with AWS. And so I suggest you reach out to your Partner Development Manager, also known as a PDM, to be engaged with them and create that roadmap for how you want to achieve the different competencies or service delivery designations to be able to help differentiate your solution and your superpower on AWS. And then lastly, Our ask for you is to be able to engage so that we can jointly drive new opportunities for both AWS and you, our AWS partners. And so what I ask is that you activate those database migration campaigns and your go-to-market solutions. And then secondly, leverage our APN customer engagement program, also known as ACE, so that you can engage with our AWS field teams effectively and be able to collaborate together. With that, just wanted to say thank you again to all of our AWS partners and customers for doing business with us. Thank you again to Eric for co-presenting with me today. I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you at re:Invent and at other sessions.